Welcome to Healthy Minds. I'm Dr. Jeff Borenstein. Everyone is touched by psychiatric conditions, either themselves or a loved one. Do not suffer in silence. With help, there is hope. Today on Healthy Minds.
Close to 15% of youth identify clinical level symptomatology of depression within the last year. I mean, this is an epidemic kind of level endorsement of depressive symptoms, and that's just depression. That doesn't necessarily include anxiety, which often overlaps with depression, as well as the substance use disorders, the early addictions, and symptoms of what are referred to as severe persistent mental illnesses.
That's today on Healthy Minds. This program is brought to you in part by the American Psychiatric Association Foundation, the John and Polly Sparks Foundation, and the Wood Next Foundation. Welcome to Healthy Minds. I'm Dr. Jeff Borenstein. How can schools enhance the mental health of students? Today I speak with leading expert Dr. John Constantino about screening in the schools for mental health problems, as well as developing curriculum which can enhance a student's ability to be resilient. John, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure. Great to be with you, Jeff.
I want to jump right in and speak with you about an important topic, which is screening for mental health issues in the schools. Let's start by telling us what is the current status of that right now.
Well, it's very mixed nationally. The tendency for schools to implement screening of youth for active mental health conditions is in many ways a function of the enthusiasm or the support of the local community, the school boards, and so forth. And so we still have a lot of work to do to make it something that families and the public feel is an important enough thing to do in school to make sure that it's really happening and identifying kids who could really use help. What we know is that when screened, children will identify treatable conditions that are often, at a clinical level that no one knew about and that were really otherwise not identifiable except through their own account in being screened. When youth are identified, they can often be treated very successfully and very early in the course of a mental health condition. And what we know from principals around the country, there was a recent study that asked school principals around the country just to survey them about screening. Most of them were not systematically screening for mental health conditions in their schools.
We know that early identification and, if needed, treatment makes a big difference in the life of the child. And also significant percentages of children at some point will have symptoms of psychiatric condition, anxiety, depression, and others. I'd like you to speak about the scope of this, how often children may develop those kind of symptoms.
Well, for the more common conditions like depression and anxiety, the statistics are relatively staggering. So there was a recent SAMHSA study of a large nationally representative cohort of youth in adolescence that looked at the 1-year prevalence for depression. If you go back to the year prior to and up including the moment that the youth were screened in this particular study, close to 15% of youth identify clinical level symptomatology of depression within the last year. I mean, this is an epidemic kind of level endorsement of depressive symptoms, and that's just depression. That doesn't necessarily include anxiety, which often overlaps with depression, but it can also often be separate and is somewhat more common than depression, as well as the substance use disorders, the early addictions, and symptoms of what are referred to as severe persistent mental illnesses.
So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the screening process. How does it work?
Typically, what will happen nowadays is that, everyone will take advantage of the students' smartphones. Now, there are issues and positive ones with getting smartphones out of schools, during the school day. But one way or another, whether through workstations or laptops or smartphones or other kinds of electronic devices, typically now there are methods for whole school populations to be screened with the push of a button, so that the screening tools are pushed out to the students, and the students respond to those privately in a way that they feel comfortable endorsing whatever there is, that they're experiencing, to endorse symptomatology of a mental health condition.